Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another session of Behind the Lava Lava. I'm your host, Milford Tiafala, joined by the greatest compadres known to man. We got our man Spencer, aka Ulupopo Art, and we got Michael Tan. You know the man, doing everything for the veterans out here in Utah. All right, before we really get into anything, it's been a minute since we've been recording, fellas, and life, it's just life, right? That's what's been happening. Been busy. So before I go anywhere else, let me start with Spencer, aka Ravishing Rick Rude. How you been, man? What you been up to?
Been good, man. Been good. Thanks for asking. Not sure if I mentioned it on any of the previous episodes, but I got injured at work earlier in the year. Oh yeah, Mike kind of put me on blast with a misleading headline, but it was good. I was on workers' comp for about 2 months or so, and it was it was good rest. Got to catch up with some people, but there's one of those things where it's like sometimes you can have too much of a good thing, and I think the longer I was away from maintaining a good work rest routine, the more I was kind of actually getting unhealthy. And so for my own health, it's actually been good that I've been able to return to work in the last few weeks and get back on my schedule again. So been feeling good. Feeling good.
That's great, man. Like you can't wait to get away from work. You think you want to just chill all day, but then you're forced out of it, and it seems all right for a little bit, but then you go a little stir crazy. You actually want to go back. All right, but it's great to have you. Hey, Michael, I know there's been some things you've been handling, a lot on your plate, your family as a whole. How's everything going with you guys?
Yeah, the family's doing good right now. I would say that I've been following up on a lot of my appointments with the cardiologist. They've been keeping a close eye to my high blood pressure, managing my medication. But overall, it's been good. I've been careful because once health scares happen and a lot of thoughts come into your mind, and you've been for me personally, I've been very careful and been thinking a lot in a lot of deep thoughts of the future and how I should manage my health. So it's been good, but I've been more intentional about where I show up and how I spend my time now, especially dealing with our foundation and helping other people organize their events. So there are multiple events coming up, especially now that we're in through the summer. It's a very busy season. So I just want to focus my energy on things that actually matters, because all of our time, each one of us, our time is very valuable, and it's something that I believe all of us cherish with our not cherish, but cherish with our short lives, right?
Malo, Sheriff.
We all live short lives, so that's been something that I've been dealing with, is just matching the energy that I'm starting to be FOB, but that's our topic coming up. But matching the energy of the people who are giving me back the same energy. So that's what's up.
What
That's
about
awesome,
what
man.
about you, T? How you been, man?
I've been good. Just bonding more with my family still, learning this whole parenting thing with, children on the spectrum, trying to better understand them so I can be a better father to them, because they definitely deserve it. And then aside from that, trying to get rid of this hibernation body. Usually, basketball season, the winter season, I usually just let myself go, be ready to hibernate. But I've been in that mode ever since last November, and over here trying to shed that.
I feel that.
But real quick, listeners, we're going to have a poll on yes or no if Spencer for Halloween should be Omni-Man from Invincible. Yeah. You
I
see this
gotta,
cut right now.
bro. I gotta hit the squats a little more. You know, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, but hey, you got the genes. You got the genes, and you didn't let yourself consume as much as I did. So you got it. Anyways, moving on. Before we get into our topic tonight, we just want to discuss a little bit about current events. And no, we're not leaning one way or the other on the spectrum. We're just speaking on our hopes for everybody involved, because it's nothing that you really want to see anytime people are getting hurt or have the potential to get hurt. Or anyways, the point is, y'all see what's going on in LA. It's gotten to the point where troops are actually being mobilized and sent over to help deal with that. What are your guys' hopes for the outcome, for the troops involved and then all the people involved within this whole thing that's going on right now in LA?
As much as I want to poke fun at this topic, I do feel for all sides who are involved in this misfortune. I would call it a misfortune for everyone, because the misfortune for those, the military, the law enforcement, those who are rioting, those who are innocent bystanders, for everyone, because as we've learned in the past, when riots happen, it don't matter which state, there's always someone who pays for all the damages, someone who pays the price for the things that other people do. But I do feel the deployment of the military is necessary, because there's not enough law enforcement to protect the city. Even until now, they reported, the mayor of LA reported damage and graffiti and everything on all the businesses and nearby buildings and stuff. There's no one to contain all that. The law enforcement, the personnel in law enforcement is very limited. So I think the move to deploy the National Guard and the Marines is necessary, even though for some people it feels like it's affecting their their rights, their constitution, and causing civil unrest and all that. But I don't want to dive too much into politics, but I am for things that can prevent harm against other people, prevent just damage to the lives of others, because I don't want to see it's like we don't want wars to happen, but those are things that we can't control, because it's not in our hands. It's not up to us. It's because of the people who are involved. So those are my thoughts on that topic.
Yeah, I think it's it's obviously a more nuanced subject than you're gonna than is usually portrayed in the media, especially legacy media. It makes a very clear black and white this versus that, but there's obviously nuances in it. It actually made me think, because it's like, I am for a strong border and a control of those who come into this country. I'm a big proponent of immigration. I mean, like every one of us, as part of this podcast, you're either an immigrant or you're connected to someone who at one time was an immigrant. Aside from American Samoa, because I guess that's the homeland that just got repurposed as an American territory. Fact is, you're an American, but at one time you were just a Samoan. We're part of this American experience now, and I mean, but what I hate about this is that this further demonstrates the issue of immigration being conflated with illegal immigration. It's like, if you're for a strong border, people are like, oh, you're against immigration. It's like, no, I'm all for immigration. Come through at a port of entry in the correct process. That's how my family came here, and cutting the line. I get it. It's like sometimes you're coming from dire circumstances, but in the long run, you're hurting yourself. by trying and others by doing it. It reminded me of this quote because I'm like, look, I'm not even saying everybody who wanted to better their lives by coming to America is even a bad person. I don't think that's the case. Obviously we're going to make a big deal out of the ones who come in and commit heinous acts and stuff like that, because the single enforcement of one law of keeping them from entering illegally would have prevented this murder or this rape or whatever. Michael, bleep that out if you have to for YouTube, but that's not everybody coming in. But the point is like, you still did something wrong. It reminded me of I don't know if you guys watch the show Better Call Saul. It's one of my favorite shows. And there's a part in it where Mike Ehrmantraut, that character, is talking to a guy the guy was a pharmacist. He took some pills and sold them to the cartel because they can repurpose them and make like recreational drugs out of them. And Mike was telling the guy, if you're going to be a criminal, do your homework. And the guy says, wait, I'm not a bad guy. And Mike says, I didn't say you were a bad guy. I said that you're a criminal. He's like, well, what's the difference? And I'm just reading the quote right here. He says, I've known good criminals and bad cops, bad priests, honorable thieves. You can be on one side of the law or another, but if you make a deal with somebody, you keep your word. And he's like, the point is you took something that wasn't yours and you sold it for a profit. That makes you a criminal. If you did not enter this through a port of entry, you're a criminal. It's like, and we've got to rectify that at some point. And there's nuanced ways to go about it. I would rather we prioritize those who commit more heinous crimes. But anyways, that's kind of here or there on the riot. The riot itself is people just getting trussed up by the media and being all like weaponized, basically. Because look, we're seeing the same things that we saw in 2020. People looting stores, people just smashing up and causing senseless destruction. And it's like, okay, you're not really helping your cause here. Because now everybody who's like, look, I'm a proud American despite the fact that I'm Mexican. It's like, but if you're ripping the American flag down, burning it, stomping on it, and then waving the Mexican flag, how am I supposed to believe that, okay, you really want to integrate into being an American? You're hurting your own cause. And but some of that's even out of the hands of those who are even on the side of like these immigrants, illegal or not. Sometimes it's just people, like in The Dark Knight, some people just want to watch the world burn. They show up to a community that's not their own and start causing chaos and havoc, and it makes everything worse for everybody. It's like again, like I said, we're back in 2020 where if one side doesn't get their way, they rant and they loot and they destroy, and we get billions of dollars of damages that the government has to fix up. I don't know.
Yeah, I think generally most people are good, but when you get them all together, they just do stupid things. And for an example, we saw a video of people where they were on the overpass and they started throwing rocks. One person decides to haul rocks and electric scooters over the overpass to basically bombard the cops below, and now everyone was joining in. There's also a video of a lady and a man pulling up with a truck, passing out masks and shields, and they start giving it out to everyone. So yeah, people are generally good, but there are people out there, like Spencer mentioned, who are just in it to just wreck things. So
Yeah. Hey, love the responses and the thoughts you guys have on it. There's a lot to unpack there, but to keep my answers short and simple, I hope that they come to a peaceful resolution soon where no troops are hurt, no civilians, whether peaceful protester or dirtbag opportunists, amongst all the chaos. I just hope that, we soon come to a resolution where, there's no more chaos for the time being, at least no more amplified chaos to this extent. But with that being said, let's get into tonight's topic. And tonight's topic is brought to you by Spencer and his Kalapu. Spencer partakes in things with the culture, stands up for the culture, represents us while he's there, representing his club. But he's got something that I'll just kick it over to Spencer, and he'll kind of get into it, how tonight's topic was brought up, and then we'll get into it.
Thanks, bro. So, like, sometimes we're brainstorming. What should we talk about? What should we talk about with the podcast? And I threw that out there to the members of Akalapu. Got some funny answers. Probably not some serious ones. Or some topics. I'm like, hey, that's for a different podcast. But this one was a pretty good one. It's from my uncle Kenale. So Uncle Ken said, "Question: We are all FOBs. If you were to meet a first time in a Hawaiian Air Fiji or Air New Zealand 21-year-old FOB, Samoan, Tongan, Fijian, no pun intended, straight from the motherland, what's the best advice you would offer them?" For those who don't know, those of you at home, if you are somehow unfamiliar with the word FOB, it's an acronym, means fresh off the boat. So basically, if you're coming over from the island to the mainland to partake in American society, New Zealand, Australia, wherever you go, what advice would you give that islander that's coming fresh off the boat, right off the island?
I would say when they first arrive, you step out the plane. When I'm starting to start fob, sound fobbier. But you step out the plane,
Off the plane.
yeah, you suck in the air, because that will be the last time that you will know peace. Mainly because when you step off that plane, now you're in survival mode. You now have to find a way to survive, especially here in the U.S. Yes, you'll be staying with family. Yes, you'll be staying at a friend's house or wherever you may be staying, but the end goal or the where you're trying to head is trying to make your own way, trying to make your own wealth, trying to make a name for yourself. So, it's very easy. Use common sense when you approach all situations. Yes, common sense might be different in all countries, and it varies by individuals based on their customs and traditions and all that. But use common sense, especially for us islanders. We're taught by our parents, by our family members, being whooped. Sorry, it's not whooped. It's being sasa, being disciplined. We get the beat down when we get disciplined. Use that as the origin, or starting point, where you've learned your lesson. Apply that lessons to your life. Don't do things that'll get yourself in trouble, because a lot of our, Polynesian people, we're always in trouble with the law. We do stupid things. Don't be doing stupid things if you're trying to succeed in this life. So that's it. Just keep your head down and don't be stupid.
What about you, T? What do you got? What advice you got for the fresh youngster, fresh off the plane?
Sitting on the plane. I don't know. If I'm thinking truthfully to my experience, most of like in high school, the kids straight from the islands, the FOBs, were always better than me. What I mean by that, like, because they're coming straight from the islands, coming straight from the culture, the foundation, the discipline. Most of the time, at least from well, I'm not gonna discriminate against one side or the other, one island or the other, but when they're coming from that culture, straight from the roots, they usually have a good sense, or they at least know that if they stick to their roots, from what their parents taught them and their grandparents or, the village around them, that they'll be all right. Because yeah, I was young and reckless, and I still do a lot of dumb stuff, but then when I see some of these kids come straight from the islands, whether I witnessed it growing up or even seeing it now, they amaze me. I find more inspiration from them instead of me trying to tell them what to do. I'm like, man, look at that. Their parents, not only did their parents raise them right, but they followed what their parents teach. Because my parents were perfect, man. They're the best. But was I the horse that drank the water? Hell nah, they led me to the water, man, and I just turned around, ran up the hill, across the border, jumped on a plane, took a boat. I was none of that. But to quit all this rambling, I just tell the young fella, listen to my life story, don't do anything that I did, and then stick to what your parents taught you. Observe, learn, and grow. Don't be afraid of failure, blah, blah, blah. You got it. Keep going.
So
Yeah,
what T is saying is he wished he took his father's advice and joined the army instead of the Marines.
Oh yeah, man. If I was in the army, whoo, my dad would probably get calls like, "Hey, your son's running naked down the barracks again."
and that's one thing that we would encourage people when they come here to the US is to become independent, to step outside your comfort zone. And this, especially when you want to pursue a career, you don't want to be heavily dependent on your family, because sometimes it's your family that holds you back. They take your money, all them falavellaves, and they take your money to feed the 8 kids in the house. But it's good to separate yourself when you have the opportunity, because when you separate yourself, you're actually doing something for yourself. And then, I don't know what FOBs you're dealing with, Milford, but with T, but the FOBs I've been seeing is, is, man, a lot of our young people getting into trouble, a lot of our young people making a lot of wrong financial choices. Just like me, I make a lot of financial choices too. But I think that's on another thing that we have to address is the financial, what's the word? Being able to be financially smart, right? Financially smart, so that, you don't get your cars repoed, you don't go steal from stores and stuff. But yeah, be a smart fob, not a dumb fob.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's plenty of those who legally immigrate, and then they get the ambition stole to them or sold to them. They forget initially what the goal was, or they keep the goal in mind, but then they prioritize that ambition because they see the glamour and the luxury, and for some reason they think that that's what they need at this time. Yeah, seen a lot of that, but I seen the old remember, the smart, disciplined ones more. I guess because that just inspired me more, and it seems to stick within the back of my mind. But yeah, I seen the folks with who got the Cadillacs on rims every Sunday at church, flossing, and then can barely buy a meal for the family. You know, those type of situations.
Yeah, I don't understand how our people can afford large SUVs, Suburbans, and all that stuff. But another thing that I encourage FOBs to do, especially if you have nothing going on with your life, is joining the military. I highly encourage our FOBs to join the military, just like how, me. I still consider myself a FOB because I can't speak properly, but I joined the military and look how I turned out.
I mean, there's something to that, right? Like, because even for homegrown Americans, some people forget this, but the military is a big opportunity where basically, let's say you're from lower class, you join the military, you're suddenly middle class. Like, for real, you're making enough money to get that income, especially with the benefits and whatnot. That's why the military, especially in the past, it was such an honored tradition. It's like you have to know how to polish your boots, press your uniform, get everything set. It was part of basically taking people that come from poverty and bringing them into basically what would be the middle class. And so basically, you come from off the island. The military is a good crash course and like basically prepping you for the outside world in a little bit. I mean, obviously, you're going to hear a lot about how the military is very, very different from the private sector, and it's true. But sometimes I'll be working in the private sector. I'm just like, man, I thought this stupidness was only in the military. Like here it is too in the corporate world. But the point is, it's like, it's a good way to get a steady paycheck, steady housing. It's a way, let's say you're not a citizen or you're a national. It's a way that you've got a fast track to getting your citizenship. You can sponsor other family members to come from the island and help them get their green card, and then over time get their citizenship. Like it helps you get a home. You get the VA home loan. You'll get a home at a better rate than if you didn't join the military. There's so many opportunities that, let's say you come fresh off the boat, you join the military, you are automatically plugged into a system that will like give you a jump start in life. That's why I even I tell this to my nieces, nephews, little cousins that graduate high school. I'm not here to play recruiter for the Army. I don't care. Everybody, all my soldiers that say, "Hey, Sarge, I'm done. After this contract, I'm gone." I'm like, cool. Look, that's your journey. I'm not here to play recruiter for the Army. They never hired me as one anyways. I'd be a terrible recruiter because my thing is whatever works for you. But I encourage young people to consider the military because it's a good crash course into adulthood. Because some kids don't know squat. They're just like a fob. They come out of their mommy and daddy's house. They've never lived on their own before. They don't know about paying bills. They don't know about living on their own and working with strangers. Military gives you all that. So I think the structure from the military is a good head start. So that's good advice, Michael. I'd have to say that for my own advice, now I'm not a FOB, but I am the son of a FOB. My mom came straight from Samoa, and in no way is this meant to be a poor reflection on her. But when I reflect on what I wish I got from my mom, so I would tell FOBs, keep your language. Keep your language and teach that and pass that on to your children. Because my mom and and not just her siblings, her sisters that all married Marines and came to the U.S., they all said, they all decided not to, well, most of them decided not to pass on their language because they thought that when we went to school, me and my cousins, if we knew two languages, it would make things difficult and confusing for us in school. And, they're probably right. But it's also shown in studies that the best time to learn a second language is before age 5, because once you learn your first language by age 5, your brain is completely cross-wired into learning things a certain way. But if you start learning a second language before age 5, you pick it up the same way you learned your first language. And it's much easier, supposedly. That's not to say that being bilingual can't be confusing for a kid in elementary school, but I think it's a worthwhile thing because strong parts of our culture are tied to the language. And me, when I try to understand more stuff about Samoan culture, somebody tells me something like "fa lavi lavi," that's a big part of our culture. I'm like, I don't know what those words mean. Fa Samoa. I'm like, are you talking about the language or the way? It's like these are little things like by just knowing the language, certain things are easier to understand. And so that's why I'm taking it upon myself in more advanced age to try to pick up on that and learn it. But I would just encourage that, hey, if you're a FOB coming off the boat, you're beginning your life here in America, welcome. But preserve that heritage. Come in, integrate. You're here to be Americans and partake in that great experiment that can edify your life. But it's good to remember where you came from. It's good to honor the ancestors in that way. Not forget that. And passing on the language is a huge component of that.
Speaking of the military and coming fresh off the boat and being a young buck, well, sort of a young buck, we got Asuelu from 90 Day Fiance of that type of fame. He's currently in basic training right now. What type of advice would you give him? I know Spencer never really seen any of the videos or clips or the show with him involved, but I know Tan, you have. So you have more of a little bit of knowledge on, the type of personality, at least the TV personality and how that goes. What kind of advice would you give this young soldier in training?
Well, I think he doesn't need advice because I already have respect for what he's done. He's in like week 5 of his basic training, and And anyone who decides to take on that mantle and serve our great country, I have respect for him. So, a lot of people still criticize him because I read through the comments of all the videos he's posted. People still criticize him, even though he's trying to make a better future for himself while also serving our country. But my only advice is fight motherfucker. That means just do things with your heart. We say fight motherfucker when we're trying to hustle, we're trying to bustle. We do things all heart. It's all heart from there, and I'm pretty sure he'll make a good soldier. And we go back to that advice, telling all the FOBs out there to make smart choices, because we've been in the military young, making bad choices. We don't want that for others. We want others to be better than us, especially with all the drinking. Don't drink too much, and if you drink too much, make sure you have people around you to take care of you and not make you look stupid. Just make smart choices. Be a smart fob. Have smart people around you, and then you'll have a great career. I'm not sure if he's a reservist or National Guard or active duty, but it doesn't matter as long as he's trying to, do good for himself. And I'm glad that he's taking that step forward instead of, I really do judge a lot of our FOBs, but he's one of the FOBs that's in the spotlight in the public that, most of us judge, but, good on him.
So, me not having any context for who he was, the fellows put his little video from him in basic training, like in our chat, and I'm like, who's this dude? But I can't help but just come at it from the grumpy staff sergeant old school mentality, because I'm just an old school staff sergeant at this point. It's like I just responded with that Futurama meme with Professor Farnsworth. Is I don't even want to be in the military anymore. It's like I'm old, man, because like just seeing basic trainees on cell phones, like what are you doing with that? Like I'm just coming at it from the grumpy guy. Like back in my day, we didn't have no cell phones, and basically we got a 5-minute phone call on a payphone. Drill sergeant's mean mugging us, blah blah blah. But now I can't change the way that the direction of the Army's going. That's part of modernizing and working with recruits from a modern age. We can't take them back to the Stone Age. My only advice to him would be, remember, you came to the Army because you wanted to meet their standard. They're not here to meet your standard. And so don't let all one of my pet peeves is I see too many soldiers online. You want to be influencers. It's like, you're a soldier before you're an influencer. I know you are a reality show star, you're an influencer online, but you joined the Army. Army didn't join you. So don't leverage your internet fame to try to rally people on like, I'm not wrong, the Army's wrong, this and that. I see too much of that online, and there's too many people that lose rank, get reprimands because they're doing something silly online in uniform when they really shouldn't be. So other than that, hey, welcome to the Army. Did he say where he's at for basic training? Is he at Fort Jackson?
Fort Benning.
Fort Benning, home of the infantry. Okay, all right. So, hey, I don't know what they have over there. I know in Fort Jackson it's Victory Forge, whatever the infantry dudes do in Fort Benning. Get through the finish line. You got this, and welcome to the Army.
Yeah, and I believe Asuelu is 30 years old. So isn't he considered an old man? Right? We have that.
He's an old man, but he's a new soldier.
Training. Yeah,
I'm 38 too. He still better go to parade rest when he talks to me.
But yeah, Asuelu, you be the leader. You lead by example. You're 30 years old. Make sure you're not the sheep following the younger soldiers and lead you into trouble.
Hey, and don't vent online. That gets you into trouble. Did y'all see that video that Uli Uli guy who was like, I'm a 40-year-old specialist. Nowhere does it say you get to disrespect me because of my rank. Yeah, he got in trouble for that. So look, don't be that guy. So you got your following, but when you have issues, do not vent about it to your following. You might feel empowered on the internet. The army doesn't give a crap.
Wise words from our panel here. Anything else, fellas? Any alibis? Any last thoughts you want to share?
No, just want to shout out Roosters Brewing Co. They are our newest partner. We've been able to use their facility, especially their event space, for the next 3 months. They're giving it to us so that we can hold our monthly Veterans Dinner meetups every second Thursday at 6 p.m. at Roosters in Layton. So we really appreciate, Roosters Brewing Co. for partnering with us and, just supporting us and standing with our foundation. Thank you for supporting our veterans.
Yeah, just want to shout out, look, we know we're not going to cover this in depth today on this episode. We'll get to it, but it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So all our brothers that are going through it, reach out if you need somebody. Call a crisis line if you have to. Just talk to somebody. Whatever you need, you are wanted, you are loved. So please, any help that you need, even if you want to reach out to us, man, just reach out. We can do our best to try to point you in the right direction. So, just want to keep that on everybody's mind, just while it's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, throughout the year. But, this month is designated specifically to bring attention to that topic. And we'll cover that in depth in a future episode.
All right, fellas. So it's great seeing you guys again. It's been a minute, but today we discussed, our thoughts on what's going on in LA very briefly, and then we discussed advice we would give a young legal immigrant, or what some others would use the term FOB, how we would guide young FOBs that we would meet out in public, and also shouting out Asuelu and being a young FOB and doing something to better his life. And also shout out to Rooster Brewing Co. And then tune in for our future episode on men's mental health. All right. This has been Behind the Lava Lava. Signing off. Have a good night and God bless.
Working on my interests, it's who I am. I'm trying to make these digits look like EINs. When the help ain't free, you all help me. Salute to folks who turn their names to LLCs. The wealth is in itself to help a non-profit. To be better women or better men, whether business by veterans or common folks with a dream. We're all born with the same strength. We tread waters that were untouched. Let's be on the same wavelength. Behind the lava, front of our eyes. Let our legacy live off it when we're up in the sky. All signs point to us to help someone make a difference. With God as my witness, let's talk business.